You don't need to control the world. You just need to stop letting it control you. This channel presents the Daily Stoic. This is the first episode of Season 4 of the Daily Stoic podcast. And we're going to be reading from Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. I'm going to read a few lines every day, give you some context on those lines, why they're important, what Marcus was going through when he wrote them, and then share a little bit at the end about what we're going to be focusing on this season on the podcast and in these episodes. So here we go. What if the world you see is just a mirror, not of reality, but of you, of your inner thoughts, your emotions, your intentions? What if the chaos outside is born from the storms within? Marcus Aurelius believed that to change your world, you don't fight the branches, you nourish the root, and the root is your mind. Picture this. You wake up, the world hasn't changed. The same headlines, the same pending tasks, the same problems you left unresolved yesterday, but something is different today. You wake with a quiet strength. You breathe. The turbulence outside seems distant. Your decisions, once dictated by fear or ambition, now flow from a deeper sense of purpose. Marcus believed to change your world, you don't fight the branches, you nourish the root, and the root is your mind. Imagine waking up in a world where nothing around you changes, but everything inside you does. Where that same loud world, the same faces, the same challenges suddenly lose their power. This isn't magic, it's not illusion. It's the Stoic truth that reality begins within. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor, surrounded by war, betrayal, and pressure, somehow maintained peace, not because the world was kind to him, but because he stopped trying to control what was never his to hold. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. We chase change in the outer world, more money, more status, better outcomes. Yet the effect always returns to the same place: restlessness, doubt, anxiety. Why? Because we treat symptoms, not the cause. Think of life like a tree. The fruit, the effect is your reality. But the root is your thoughts, your mindset, your inner world. If the root is rotten, no matter how much you polish the leaves, you'll never bear good fruit. So let me ask you, when was the last time you focused on the root? We try to fix our relationships, our jobs, our routines, but rarely ask, where is all this coming from? The Stoics understood this. They didn't fight the chaos. They studied it. They went inward because they knew change begins where no one else can see. Marcus didn't resist what life gave him. He reflected. He understood that anger, jealousy, fear, they are not enemies. They are messengers. If your reality is full of conflict, look not to others, but to the narratives you've accepted as truth. Now imagine this. Every thought you think is a seed. Some grow weeds, envy, regret, self-doubt. Others grow strength, stillness, and clarity. You choose the seed, but you must also guard the soil, and that soil is your mind. Let's go deeper. If you speak harshly to yourself, you speak harshness into the world. If you wake with gratitude, you program the world to respond with grace. Words aren't just noise. They are spiritual blueprints. Every word you think, every word you say is creating. The Stoics were builders of kingdoms, yes, but more importantly, of inner empires. Now, before we get into Season 4, I want to take a moment to reflect on Season 3 and talk about what's different about this season. With Season 3, we wanted to dig deeper into the practices of the Stoics, the things that they did each day to become better. We looked at journaling, and self-reflection. We looked at negative visualization and premeditations. We looked at how the Stoics approached the present moment. We looked at how they train their mind. We looked at how they use repetition and use affirmations and sayings and quotes to shape their habits and their behavior. Season 3 was designed to be practical. If you're new here, we read from the classics, but we ground it in what actually matters to you. How can this apply to your life today? And so, if you haven't checked out Season 3, I encourage you to go back and listen to it. There's a lot of great stuff in there. But if you have listened to Season 3, you might have come away with a bunch of ideas, a bunch of potential practices, but not quite sure how to put them into place. That's what this season is about. In this season, we're going to be looking at the core principles of Stoicism. Not just talking about how it's applied in life, but what are the big ideas? What are the core tenets? What makes something Stoic? And in doing so, we're gonna go back to the classics. We're gonna go back to meditations. We go back to Seneca and Epictetus and Musonius, Rufus and Cato, and all these other figures to look at the original source. Material look at what the Stoics themselves wrote and said and did, and then figure out how can we apply it to our lives today. If you followed the Stoics, you know that you don't need more information. You don't need another book, another podcast episode, another article telling you how to be Stoic. You already know the stuff. But maybe you need a reminder. Maybe you need to hear it again. Maybe you need to hear it one more time before you finally decide to make that leap, before you finally decide to make the commitment to live the right way. And so that's what this season is going to be about. It's going to be a study of the Stoic principles. I'm excited to embark on this journey with you. As always, I hope this helps, and I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment. So what are the big ideas of Stoicism? Well, I think the first one is this idea that we don't control the external world. We can't control what other people say or do or think or feel. We can't control the news. We can't control the stock market. We can't control the traffic. We can't control any of those things. But we can control ourselves. We can control our response to those things. And so this is something that Marcus grapples with throughout meditations. He writes this book while he's on campaign, right? He's in the middle of battle. He's writing this book, which is his personal journal, and he's constantly trying to remind himself, look, I can't control whether or not I win the battle. I can't control whether or not my soldiers are alive or dead. I can't control any of these things, but I can control myself. I can control my judgment of these things. I can control my response. And so that's the first big lesson of Stoicism. It's this idea that we can't control everything that happens to us, but we can control ourselves. And in fact, we control everything that happens to us, not in the sense that we cause everything that happens to us, but in the sense that we interpret everything that happens to us. We assign meaning to it. We judge it. And if we stop judging these things, if we stop getting upset over things that are outside of our control, then we've taken away their power. And this is what Marcus is grappling with throughout this book. And it's one of the reasons why he writes it. He wants to remind himself of this, even though he already knows it, right? He wants to remind himself of this, even though he already knows it. He needs to keep reprogramming his mind because he's constantly faced with these challenges, with these temptations, with these opportunities to get caught up in the drama of the world. And so he wants to keep himself grounded. He wants to make sure that he doesn't forget that his happiness depends on his choices, on his judgments, on his interpretation of what happens to him. The second big idea of Stoicism, and we're going to be exploring this a lot in this season, is this idea of virtue. Is the soul good? For the Stoics, there's only one ultimate good, and that's living a life according to nature. That's living a virtuous life. That's being the best version of yourself. And everything else is indifferent. Everything else is neither good nor bad. It's neutral. It doesn't matter. And this is a radical idea because it frees us up to focus on what really matters. It frees us up to focus on our character, on our integrity, on doing the right thing. And it also allows us to accept whatever happens with equanimity, to not get upset, to not judge it, to not resist it, because we know that ultimately what matters is that we do the right thing. Okay, I got a question for you. What inner belief are you ready to let go of today? If you want to join the growing number of people that have found strength, wisdom, and inspiration in the Stoics, and you want to learn more about how to apply these ancient philosophies to your life today, that's it for today. I hope this helps. I'm rooting for you.